Hey Bulls, welcome to our conversation where we'll be talking about academics in our Transfer Student Success Series. I'm Raymond, I'm a Reach Peer Health Educator with the Center for Student Wellbeing, and today I'm joined by Andrew Mason. First of all, I would like to thank you for joining me in this conversation, Andrew. I know you're a part of a fantastic leadership team in the Office of Academic Advocacy here at USF. So for those who might not know what your role is, can you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much, Raymond. Good. Hello, everyone. My name again is Andrew Mason. I work, as Raymond said, in the Office of Academic Advocacy. We're a part of undergraduate studies here at USF, and we help students across all three campuses connect to academic resources. The main point of our office is to help students who are facing any sort of obstacle or barrier to their academic success, helping them navigate around that and helping them connect to different campus partners or resources to make sure that they're successful the rest of that semester and then semesters after that. Our main goals for transfer students particularly is to keep them here for that first term to the second term they're here, and then get them out as quickly and efficiently as possible. So for those students that are coming from our state and community college partners, that typically means that we want them to find a major, do really well in that major, and then graduate within 2 years.
Thanks for sharing, Andrew.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have you here. So let's get started. Oftentimes, incoming transfer students may find choosing the right major a difficult time and sometimes unaware of university policies that may affect their academic experience. So I'm curious to know what university policies impact a student's decisions for choosing a major and their overall academic experience at USF.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So when a transfer student typically comes in, they've finished an associate's or their general education requirements somewhere, and they've not often put a lot of thought into like what the major is going to be. So some transfer students come and expect to have a time period in which they can figure that out. But unfortunately, the way that the state structures and the way that the institution structures our requirements, transfer students are expected to pretty much hop straight into their major. And so there is the notion of this kind of 2+2 model. It's under our degree progression policy, which basically says that students should complete their degree in 4 total years. Particularly at USF, we look at getting that done then in 2 years for our transfer students. And so when transfer students are coming to USF, they're always positioned well if they're able to choose, get declared, and start in the major of their choice right when they get here. That's always like kind of the best path to success. Some other things to really pay attention to is that transfer students often face tapping out financial aid. If they've had a lot of previous institutions or they've taken a lot of previous coursework at myriad institutions before, we find that students are basically tapping out on what they can pull for financial aid. If they've been a part of the Florida state system for their entire academic career, we also face students can also face a policy we call excess credit hour surcharge. And that is like once they've taken a particular percentage over the 120-hour mark or 123-hour mark, depending on the major, we start charging them double tuition. So the other piece is that we don't want students to be here taking courses that aren't necessary because it could come back to haunt you at the end. Other policies to be in mind for transfer students is that we do have limits on the number of classes that transfer students can withdraw from, particularly those that are in the upper division of their studies. There's also things to be aware of, like that set the degree apart, like do they need a language at the college level or not, and how many upper level courses are going to be a part of the major, and then how many are you going to have to take in addition to that. And the last or most important one, I think, for the major specifically is to know what major policies prohibit you from continuing or prohibit you from even joining. So some examples of those are like some majors will look at all of your previous attempts of particular courses, and some majors actually have what we call a DF policy meaning that if you score a certain number of D's or F's in that particular major, they might actually reselect you out of that major. So these are all things that we want to try to avoid with transfer students. And our main goal in our office and with our partners over in Office of Transfer Success is making sure that students are ready to go in a major that they are choosing and that it's appropriate for their career and professional goals. And so they can hit the ground running from day one and avoid all of these kind of icky policies that we have to dance around.
Yeah, those are all great points to consider. And declaring a right major is one of the most important parts of towards pursuing your dreams and aspirations. And it's important to be aware of these policies that USF has, just so that you're aware of anything that could potentially hinder or benefit your academic experience.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can get overwhelming just thinking about this process. And this kind of leads to my next question. What services or resources are available to help students make an easier or more educated choice in choosing their major?
Sure. So the cool thing about USF is that for the most part, our services are available to our current students, obviously, but a lot of students don't know that they can actually access some of our services early. So for example, you can make an academic advising appointment before you're a declared or admitted student at USF. And the reason for that is that we tell students to make sure that they've got kind of all their ducks in a row, right? They've got everything ironed out before they get here. So some of the big ones that I recommend students do before they even come to USF is make sure that you've done your research, you've looked around online and seen what the major requirements are or the admissions requirements for that specific major are. And if you're in the gray and you're not really sure if you're absolutely checking off all the boxes, then schedule an academic advising appointment with an academic advisor in that respective major to make sure that before you even get admitted, you go through orientation or before you start classes with us, that you know these are all the things that I need to do. So a common example of this would be like the College of Engineering, for example. They have rather strenuous admissions requirements, even for transfer students. And so it's imperative that before students begin here and try to go into the College of Engineering, that they have all of those courses and all those prerequisites met, and they don't have any repeats of those, and that they have a great GPA upon entrance. Unfortunately, what we see sometimes is transfer students will get to us and not have done any of that pre-work, and then they're forced into an alternative major or a major that might not have been their first choice. And so for those students, some other resources that exist that I think are great is particularly like our friends and partners over in Career Services. I think that students normally have this misconception that Career Services is just there to help you workshop your resumes at the end of graduation and help you find a job. And that's a component of what they do, but Career Services is also there to help you connect job opportunities and professional experiences to the major that you're currently in, and also help you see how wide the possibilities are within those majors. So for example, if you come here and you're not admitted into the major specifically that you had originally intended, Career Services can help you figure out, are there experiences that you can participate in to help supplement that and still ultimately have the same outcomes? So ultimately still be applying for and still be competitive for the same types of jobs that you would have been if you were in that other major. The other piece is like our office. Academic Advocacy is a resource that's there to help students who potentially are facing reselection or need to have conversations around what these major requirements are and what it takes to be successful in those majors. But some other big ones are the Academic Success Center over in the library. They're there with tutors around the clock, both in person and virtual. And even after this semester, we anticipate there will be some virtual flexibility. Also, the library staff, so librarians are, standing by virtually and in person to help you with writing, as far as like knowing how to begin research, and that's a huge resource that we have right there in the library, to have research librarians who are just willing to help you out whenever. And then also there's some pre-professional or graduate advising that's important too. So let's say that you wanted to go into business, for example, and then you weren't allowed to declare a business. Well, you can still meet with the graduate advisors in the MBA program who will help you figure figure out how to be a good competitive MBA student, so that even though you might be majoring in something that's not business now, you can still go major, or you can still go to grad school for MBA or for other business related master's programs. Or also, if you're interested in going on to a pre-professional or to a health professional grad program, like, physical therapy, occupational therapy, PA, any of those, we have pre-professional health advising here at USF also that works in tandem with your current academic major advisor to help make sure that you're hitting all those prerequisites for some future health program.
Yeah, for sure. Those are all great resources. And from my own personal experience, academic advising was the most integral part of my undergrad journey and helping me choose what I wanted to do in the future. And, USF has a great community of staff, and everyone is there to guide you and to help provide support and resources just so that you're able to graduate feeling content and to have a successful future. And so there's this interesting statistic that I came across. Transfer students make up a great portion of USF's demographics.
Yeah.
A lot of people that I've met and have become friends with are transfer students. And what they did was that they completed 2 years of community college and then transferred to USF to complete their final 2 years here. So let's discuss what are some advantages that students bring or unique experiences that transfer students can expect during their time at USF?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So what's interesting is that transfer students typically tell us at the point of admission, or like in that first semester, that they feel like they kind of have this mark on them that, like, oh, they're a transfer student. And there's this kind of weird sense of like them not thinking that they're reflected at USF. But to your point, they make up well over half of our student body. Depending on the year, it's usually about 60% of our student body is made up of transfer students, which means they're the most common student on our campus. The reason that we love working with transfer students is because they do actually bring a really great, robust set of like unique experiences that actually I think enhance our campus experience for all of our students. Typically, transfer students are working adults, and so what they can bring to the classroom is some real job experience. It's really, it's lofty to sit into some of these classes and think about what like work life will be like, but it's also really cool when you have transfer students in the room who can tell you what work life is like and share those experiences with you. They're also skilled typically in managing like multiple priorities. So a lot of times they have families and they're either raising a family of their own or they're taking care of aging parents, and they have a job to maintain, and they have these other volunteer stuff and other professional obligations. So transfer students are a really great resource for even our FTIC students to look at for like how to manage life, how to like do life all at once. I still think it's interesting because some transfer students think that resources are like precluded, or they're precluded from using some resources, and that's not really true at all. Like they can absolutely access wellness, the department in which you represent. So all the wellness resources are available to transfer students. If they don't already have housing that they're committed to in their own life, like they can join like our housing and residential education program. Any of our like event programming or involvement programming is open to transfer students. The thing that like we think is really important is that students like connect to that major sooner, because they tend to like dive right in. So they come to USF, but the identity is more typically like connected to like the major that the student is in, because they've went right in, right? Like they started in that like junior fall or like that junior semester where they're like all in on the major. So typically these students are pretty well versed in like what the world is around their major. And the other thing is that transfer students normally think that they won't have time for all of these high impact practices that we call them, or experiential ed, but that's not true. A lot of our transfer students, if they work with an advisor strategically from the beginning, we often are able to help transfer students plan for doing undergraduate research. We've helped them plan to make study abroad or education abroad happen, as well as like shadowing experiences and internships and practicums. There's a ton of experiential and like hands-on learning that transfer students still have access to. Yeah,
I totally agree with you. I just want to touch up on a point that you made earlier. Transfer students bring a level of maturity that's beyond comparison.
Absolutely.
Some of them might be a little older or have unique life experiences than you would typically expect. And, that's okay. For future and current transfer students, I just want to say, as a society, we often stigmatize the label non-traditional students.
Yeah.
And what truly matters is that you are a student here at USF. It doesn't matter if you're traditional or non-traditional. You are a student and you belong here. And that's what makes USF a great, diverse community. And is there anything else you'd like to add to that, Andrew?
No, I love that, hearing it from your perspective too as a student, because that's what we feel like in our work, right? Like what we know anecdotally and what we observe on a daily basis is that transfer students bring a level of both maturity and experience and really help our other students across campus see themselves reflected differently in these programs. And so it's great to hear from a student perspective you sharing that same vision for students, because there's tons of offices on our campus who dedicate resources directly to transfer students. Between New Student Connections, they have peer leaders in their office that are transfer specific peer leaders. We have transfer advocates in our office. There's an Office of Transfer Student Success. There's a ton of folks all across this campus whose main enjoyment really is helping transfer students, and that's what we love plugging in to do.
Yeah, like I've mentioned before, USF has a great community of staff and students, and everyone here is willing to provide resources and support just so that you're able to enjoy your academic experience here at USF, and they truly do care for you.
Exactly.
And as we wrap up our discussion here, I'd like to thank you again, Andrew, for taking the time out of your day to join me in having this important conversation. I'd like to ask, are there any resources that you provide, or how can students contact you?
Sure. So we have made it a pretty big recurring point in our office and in our space to know how students access information. So I don't want to give you some big long website, because at the end of the day, I know what you're going to do is just turn around and Google it, right? So if you just Google USF Academic Advocacy or USF Transfer Success or USF OAA or USF New Student Connections, if you Google any of these things, the first result's going to be these offices. So I would encourage you, if you feel like you're facing any kind of confusion or trouble around finding the right major fit, or you're wanting to make sure that you kind of have a good plan for transferring in here, that you Google USF Office of Transfer Student Success. Or if you're already a transfer student here and you're seeing this and you just feel like you're struggling to connect with your major and you might want to explore some different options, if you feel like you're not able to do that with your academic advisor, just Google USF Office of Academic Advocacy and click the About Us and Meet Our Team pages, and you'll see all of our profiles there.
Yeah, for sure. Be sure to check that out. And thanks again, Andrew. And thank you to our viewers who tuned in. Please stay safe and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you so much.